guys? Welcome back to the David and Aidan Show. My name is Aidan.
And my name is David.
And we got a jam-packed episode today. We are going to be discussing all things Hamilton, because as you probably know, Hamilton on Disney Plus was released a couple weeks back, and it's super exciting times. If you don't know, me and David are really into this show, so we have a lot to talk about. We're going to be discussing all things about bringing, the show over to a streaming platform, our top songs, etc., etc. It's going to be a great episode, so thank you for joining us on this journey of the David and Aidan Show. But yeah, we can jump right into things, and starting off with, just our personal experience with the show. What got you into Hamilton? What got you into this entire kind of show and culture around the musical, David?
Yeah, so it was 2016. I was in a car ride with my cousin, and she said, "Have you heard of Hamilton?" I said, "No." She showed me some songs, and then I really didn't care for it then. And then I listened to the soundtrack, but I accidentally bought some songs from the mixtape. So it was nowhere near the same effect of, the actual soundtrack. So I'm like, this is kind of strange. And then after talking to my cousin a little bit more, she's like, "No, you got the wrong album." Then I listened to a few songs on YouTube. I memorized all of the first song, some of Aaron Burser. And then from there, around 2018 or at the end of 2017, I really got into the soundtrack, and the rest is history. Now if we're counting it a movie, which I kind of do because Letterboxed counts it a movie, it is my favorite movie. More than the Star Wars movies. And that's saying a lot, given the fact that my name is basically Star Wars. But yeah, I love it that much.
Basically Hamilton.
Yeah, there we go.
Time. But no, yeah, I think that's interesting that people are considering it more of a film now. That's pretty cool, coming from a theater background. If anyone doesn't know, I do a ton of theater. My second passion next to making films and talking about them is making theater stuff. I've been acting since 8 years old. Done a lot of behind the scenes stuff with theater, and it's so much fun. And I don't really know when I got into Hamilton as a show, but I do know that it's I've been into it for a while, and I think probably 16 and 17, 2017 was probably around when I started listening to it more and more. But I think it all kind of came just from being in theater productions and just hearing everyone talking about it, and then like, hey, I should get on the bandwagon, which I did, and I haven't really left that bandwagon. It's on my heavy rotation on Spotify, and it's a great album. The mixtape album I actually just started listening to recently, and it's not bad. It's a refresher, but it's definitely not the first thing of Hamilton you should listen to.
No, definitely not.
But no, yeah, it's interesting, and it's a great show. Let's see. So yeah, that's basically how I got into Hamilton, and ever since I think I listened to the cast album. Originally it kind of started off as like a show I didn't really know too much about, but then I started learning more and more about it, and it's such a good show. Definitely has quickly become one of my favorites, and I know it's cliche to say that it's like your favorite show, because obviously there's a lot of other musicals that people don't talk about nearly enough, but it's still a really big show, and I like that it's become more it's become popular outside of the musical theater community, which I think is really cool as well. So that's that, and I actually got the experience of seeing the show earlier this year, before the shutdown, on the second to last night when they were performing in Chicago. Wow. So it was very cool, very exciting. Spent my hard-earned money, and my bank account had $0 in it for a long time afterwards, but money well spent. I really enjoyed it, and it was it's a great show, and I almost wish I got to see it later on, because I feel like over quarantine and stuff I've become even more of a fan of the show, and I kind of like know some more of like the certain parts of it and stuff. I've been watching a lot of videos on like how the sets were made and stuff. Very interesting. So
how was the show in Chicago? How was that cast?
It was so good. Great cast. I know a lot of them, because it was the last evening show that they did, and because they had a matinee the next day, and it was such a good show. After the show, they do a stage tour where like all the actors come outside and you get to meet them and stuff. And I have signatures from pretty much everyone in the cast, which is really cool. So it was really exciting, and it was a great show. I think probably like on par with obviously the New York one and stuff, and a lot of them have gone on now to be in different casts of Hamilton and stuff, so a lot of those actors have kind of gone even further in their career now. It's super exciting to kind of see different actors appear and stuff throughout the area. So that's what I have, but here we are today, as of what was it, like fairly recently, I think it was like July something, we got ourselves Hamilton on Disney
Yes.
Plus, and it's a very exciting thing. So what are your takes? What's your take on this, David? How do you feel about, Hamilton as a whole on Disney Plus? How do you feel like the recording went from a movie critic's point of view? What's your first
Ooh,
opinion
movie
on
critic,
this?
I'm honored. No, I mean, it was amazing. It was very, very well
Yeah.
shot. Like, the camera became a character. Like, everything about it was beautifully shot. It gets you even more immersed if that's even possible, and it is. But I've always wanted, like, a Hamilton movie. Like, I'm a Hamilton fan. Of course, I wanted a Hamilton movie. But after watching it, it's long. It is long. And for us Hamilton fans, it doesn't feel that long. But for my
Yeah.
parents who watched it with me, it was really long for them. So I was thinking like it would be great if they could get it could become an official movie. But after watching it, I think this is all I want. I don't need it to become a movie because
Yeah.
you have to balance action and war, and then you have to cut out songs and write dialogue. Hamilton was already great, so I'm glad that they didn't try to make a
Yeah.
movie. They just filmed it and gave it to the fan. I would have loved to see it in
Yeah.
theaters, but then I would also have to wait a year. So everything balances out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think, I think presenting it the way they did was a great way to do it. I think if they were to have made it like like an actual movie where they would like redo stuff, I feel like it would just take
Yeah.
away from some of it. I think what makes it special is telling. I mean, literally, you can listen to that cast album and from start to finish, and you get the entire
Yeah.
story. Like it's so like. I mean, almost all musicals are like this, but this one more than a lot is really based around the music, and it tells a story. And I am very into music. I like lots of different music, but the thing I like about musical theater music is it tells such a story, and it has such way more meaningful than like other
Exactly.
music out there. So it's less basic than pop songs is basically the conclusion to this statement. But yeah, it's great. And yeah, like you said, I think it's really good that they didn't totally make it into a film, and bringing it on to Disney Plus was a really interesting thing. I think it would have been cool, like you said, to see it in theaters. I think there's just something really interesting about that, bringing a stage show that's performed in a theater to another theater, a movie theater. It's like kind of
Yeah.
meta, but it's interesting, and I think I just think it's so cool that if they continue to do this with other shows, that they're basically extending the reach of like theater shows that some people don't necessarily have the budget to go see, to now the everyday person who's paying just for a streaming service or going to a movie theater. So yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, I think it's great that they brought it over to Disney Plus, and I'm excited to see more shows like that come over in the
Yeah,
future.
no, I
So
would love that because then I can get more into musicals. And as someone who you
oh
are
yeah,
into musicals, is there dialogue? Is there like
oh yeah.
once the song ends, do they have conversations usually?
Typically, yeah, yeah, Hamilton is way more
Yeah,
song based, but I've been in a good handful of musicals. I have my script from Putnam County
nice.
Spelling Bee behind me. It was in the spring
I have
before it
heard of
got
that
shut down.
one.
That was very sad, but oh, it's such a fun show. I won't get too sidetracked, but it's such a fun show. I played the nerdy homeschool kid, which I actually am in real life, so it was great, complete method acting, and I loved it. But like yeah, like that show, there was there were songs, but there were huge chunks of dialogue too. It was like probably like there could be 2 to 3 pages
Okay.
of dialogue before the next song. So it's yeah, it varies between musicals, but when I watched Hamilton, I was kind of surprised at how little dialogue there was compared to songs. So but yeah, I think Hamilton does what it does very,
Yeah,
very
because I
well.
asked
So
that because going back to our history thing, when I first figured out that there was no dialogue, when I found the bootleg version of it on YouTube, and I realized there was no dialogue, that actually got me out of the play for a little bit because I felt like, well, I've experienced it, like I've experienced the soundtrack, and now there's nothing more. So that was really disheartening when I first figured that out. But then watching it, I mean, it's magic. So I'm glad that anger
oh
didn't
yeah.
last.
We have a bootleg that my dad has that we got way
Yeah.
back 2016, and it's super professional. It was removed off of YouTube within 30 minutes. I don't know how my dad managed to download it that fast, but we have it. I want to compare it to this recording. I mean, I doubt it's the same. I want to compare it though because it was multiple camera angles, and it was it was shot. It was completely color graded. It was literally a
Oh
professional
wow.
recording of the Broadway show. So that will be for a separate video. But on the off chance that I had access to this recording since 2016, that would be a great
That
story.
would.
So we will see. But yeah, tune into the next episode, guys. We'll touch base on that. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. It shows on Disney Plus now. I loved it. I watched it one time fully through, and then been skimming
Oh
through,
yeah.
watching it in parts ever since. And yeah, it's great, and it's really brought back
Oh
Hamilton
yeah.
for me. I mean, I've always been pretty into it, but like since it was released, I've been listening to that way more than any other music. So it's
In the
great.
last 30 days, not a day has gone by where I don't watch some clip, or especially don't hum it at least 20 times. Um, it's consumed my life.
Oh
It's
yeah.
amazing.
It's great. It's awesome. I like when shows and movies and stuff become this whole kind of experience that enthusiasts can kind of all come together around, and especially in times like when we're still quarantined a little bit or whatever. It's kind of cool to like have these shared experiences. We've seen this with we saw it with Star Wars all the day, like whenever any new
Yeah.
Star Wars movie comes out, Endgame, like there's these big moments I feel like in pop culture, and it's really fun because it's not even, it becomes less about the actual physical film or what have you, but it becomes more about
The
the community
experience,
and
yeah.
the people around it
Oh
talking
yeah,
about it.
it's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
Before we go into some rankings, let's talk about why we think this is so special, just for everybody, and especially for us. Even though we talked about that just a little bit, but Aidan, why do you think this is the most popular Broadway musical?
Oh yeah, it's hard to say with like why things take off so much like they do, but I'd say, I mean, I think it's interesting because it tells a story of our country, but it's also like telling it from a kind of a different way, and I think it kind of brings together, almost educational, but like not totally. And I think that could be a big appeal for people, but I also just think I think it kind of snowballed. I think like in the beginning it didn't take much, like people started enjoying it for either, I mean, it's obviously a well written show, but also because it's telling a true story and stuff. And I think from there, the first like year or so that it had hit the theaters, I think that's where it kind of started to pick up. And then after that, it's literally, I think, just the hype levels that everyone wanted to go see it, so it just kept dragging on and on and on for years. And it's it's really cool to see live shows last so long, and it's a great experience. But again, it's kind of a mystery, I think, a little bit. Aside from the amazing songs and actors and stuff, it's a little bit of a mystery, I guess. I think to figure out like why certain things take off and stuff. What's your take on that? Any thoughts on that?
I think when you think of a story of America, you think white dudes. Like you're like who's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
play Washington? A white dude. This besides King George, if I'm not mistaken, he's the only white guy in the
Yeah.
cast. So that's different right
Yeah.
there. It's rap and R&B telling the story of America. Different. So I think
Great.
just the concept is very different. The songs
Yeah.
are incredibly catchy. Let's see. Lin-Manuel, he did perform it at the Obama White House, so that probably started the buzz. Wow, that was 10 years ago. That's crazy.
Wow. Whoa.
I know.
Wow.
Time
Yeah.
flies. He looked
It's,
so
yeah.
different and small back then.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
Time really flies. But yeah, I mean, and also Jimmy Fallon said this because he posted like the cast saying "helpless," and he said something like themes of love, revolution, that are just as relevant as today that they are back then.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a universal message with just great music,
Agreed,
great
agreed.
cast, and the cast I think kind of like Stranger Things. Like the cast are their own entity. Like everybody
yeah.
knows Lin-Manuel Miranda, Philippa Sue,
Yes.
Leslie Odom Jr.
Yeah, it's
Everything about it just makes it
amazing
so
cast,
charming.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what you said about it, it's a story that is really important to tell and that a lot of people are interested in hearing, but it's told way different, and I think
Yeah.
it's told in a way that's like kind of relevant to us now. It's like it's not telling like this boring story of like it's not a history lesson, but it's told in a way that people find interesting now. And
Oh, yeah.
I think they did it really well. I think they really found something that I think the big thing is any kind of content creation is finding something that people will like and then finding a way to do it different. And I think they did just that. So I think
Yes, yes,
they
yes.
approached it very well. They found what clicked, and then they made a great musical. So here we are.
Definitely.
All right, everybody, we've reached the point in our podcast where we are going to start ranking some of our favorite songs and characters from the show. I have a lot to talk about this, as I'm sure David does, so it's going to be a fun time. But we can jump right into our favorite songs. We're going to rank each of our top three favorite songs, kind of volleying back and forth here. So going over to you, David, what is your third favorite song from the show?
Well, it's impossible to rank them, but I've tried my best.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
kind of like at the moment kind of thing because some days,
Definitely.
I'm humming more songs or different songs. But real quick, just some honorable mentions. My Shot, which is like just incredible and makes me jealous that I will never be able to write anything that amazing, like ever. Story, song. What I don't write songs, but I do like writing stories.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's just so amazing. Satisfied once again, and Right Hand Man. I just love George Washington. He's awesome. But number three is Room Where It Happens. I actually wrote an eighth grade essay on this.
Nice,
So
nice.
you're going to notice a lot in this episode that for some reason I conflate Hamilton with Harry Potter. Because Lin-Manuel Miranda is a Harry Potter fan and he's a Slytherin, and so am I, so maybe that's why I like the show so much. But this is a very Slytherin song, and I love Aaron Burr. And this is just kind of when he explodes, and it's so well written. I love that. Watching it, I love the little, like, slight rewind that they do for the people who watched it. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cleverly written, and I love the opening line of, "Did you hear about the Mercer legacy? Is secure. All he had to do was die." I love the little plays on like what a legacy means. It's just dying, because now he's dead. He has a street named after him. Is that what a legacy is? So there's just so many little motifs and so many references. It's great. And I mean, it's catchy, but all the songs are catchy as well. So that's my number
Awesome.
three.
Nice, nice. Going into my honorable mentions, I had one. I put Your Obedient Servant a little bit. Well, actually, I have two. I
Yes.
just thought of another one. But going back to this one, yeah, it's a good song. It's catchy and it's right at that climax of the
Yeah.
show. It's so great. It's so exciting and it's a good song and it's shorter. So I guess that's the only reason why I didn't put it higher up because it's one of those kind of like filler songs or whatever. But it's still very good and. My other runner-up would be Hurricane. It's great song.
Yes, yes.
I tweeted back, I think, right around the release that was my favorite song, and then I listened to the album again, and that changed. So
And that was my favorite for a while, actually.
it changes all the time. It's crazy,
Yes.
but my number three is "You'll Be Back." Excellent song. I love the humor in it. I love it. It's a great song. The guy who played King George, I'm blanking on his name in Chicago. What's his name? I know if I get up and I look at my playbill on the other end of the room, I'll remember. But either way, everyone who plays King George, it's a great role, and it's a very very funny role. I think. I mean, like,
Yes,
I
it
don't know.
is.
I would. It's a great role. It's a great song too. I think it takes a lot of skill to do that, but I mean, even if you're just focusing on the song, it's just a fun song. It's a good song, and I think
so
it's
good.
I don't know. It's one of my favorites. Definitely not number one, but it's number three. Solid on the list.
Yeah, King George is a great character, and that's a great song. And what I love about that is that character in that song gets people who are kind of like lukewarm on Hamilton into Hamilton.
yeah.
I have a YouTube
yeah.
friend who was like, "What is this?" And he like turned it off, and then came back a couple days later, and he said as soon as he came on stage, she knew he was in for a treat. And my mom felt the exact same way as well. So King George is awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's see, my number two is, where is it? Oops, lost it. Nonstop. This one is great, and once again, comparing Hamilton to Harry Potter, this is also a very Slytherin song. I just love Hamilton's drive in this song. I love the competition and the rivalry between Burr and Hamilton is beautifully displayed. I love when the rivalry between the two of them is on display because they have a great rivalry. And it's never like over the top, like I hate you, I hate you. It's just like, you're being really annoying right now, dude. Like, chill out.
Yeah.
And it's a great callback to My Shot. There's some great motifs. Like, everything in the first act is somehow sprinkled into this song because it's the
great,
equivalent
yeah.
of the first act.
I am blown away by how much they can put into one song. Like, I mean, I know the songs are longer, but they're able to tell such a big chunk of a story, especially in Nonstop. It's insane, and I think it's very cool. My number two is also Nonstop, and
Nice.
It's awesome. I think it's a, kind of one of those more cliche songs that everyone likes, but I still think it's great, and it tells a great story. It's really kind of builds up that kind of tension and stuff, and it's a great piece. So yeah, that's my number two. We can do a little drum roll and roll into our number ones. What's your number one, David?
My number one, this is just currently, because I don't think this is my
Oh yeah,
actual number one of all time, but as of right now, it's Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story, the ending song. I am obsessed with all of Eliza's songs right now. I think
oh yeah,
she has a great singing voice, Philippa Sue. No, I don't think she does have a great singing voice. It's just a great way to close out the play, and it kind of just encapsulates the whole theme. Like, these
yeah.
dudes, they're like, this king, he's mean, let's do something about it, and here we are, sitting in this
Right,
country. Just
right.
because they weren't happy. And who lives, who dies, who tells your story? I mean, it's a great question. It's a great song. I love all the cast gets to do something, and I love that little. This is specifically with the recording, that little third wall breaking that Eliza does when
Yeah,
Hamilton walks her across, and he gets to see these people heard my story. That's beautiful.
it's great. Yeah.
It's such a good song, and once again, I love Philippa Sue's voice.
Yeah, it's a great song, and I think it's an excellent way to end the show. I think like you said, it sums up everything. It really ties together the entire kind of point of the show, and I think it does that really really great. So I think yeah, definitely leaves the audience with a really great song there. My number one is right now again because it again changes every day. Is Wait for It.
Nice.
It's such a good song. I love it, especially like right around the middle of the song when it kind of gets a little bit more upbeat. It's just
Yeah.
such a good song. Yeah, I never used to be a huge fan of it. Like, it was one of those songs that I wouldn't listen to as much, but after I was literally just listening to the album on repeat for hours, it became much more one of my favorite songs. And yeah, right now, definitely at the top of the list. It's a really good song. I think it tells a good story. Again, it's all about building up that tension between Hamilton and Burr, and I think it does it beautifully. It really helps kind of give another side to the story and bring out more just advance the plot. And I think even putting all that aside, it's just a really great song. So yeah.
Yes, no, I
Awesome.
love that song.
Yes. All
Once
right.
again, Slytherin Burr. I love it.
Definitely. Moving right along, everybody. Next up, we're going to be just doing a quick little top three of our favorite Hamilton characters. So it's going to be a little. You're in for a treat. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. So, what's your number three or any honorable mentions for characters, David?
Yeah, quick honorable mentions is Lafayette slash Jefferson. Daveed
Nice.
Diggs does an amazing job with both, and
Okay.
Washington. Number three, this is hard, but I will go with Burr. Like I said, he is a fantastic character, a fantastic Slytherin, a
Nice.
self-destructing Slytherin, so I have to remind myself not to be too much like him. But yeah, he is a great character. Once again, I
Yes.
love his rivalry with Hamilton. All his
Yeah. Yeah.
songs are great. Wait for It is amazing. Room Where It Happens is amazing. Yeah,
Yes.
he's just a great character. Kind of already talked about him in my songs, but yeah, he's great.
Oh yeah, yeah. My number three is also Burr. I think,
Nice.
yeah, like you said, I think it's just really cool to see him. He's in this, rivalry with Hamilton, and I feel like he's always a step behind, and he's always trying to get somewhere else. And it's really cool to kind of see his perspective of the story, not necessarily always being right in the spotlight, and kind of his journey to get there. And it's really interesting. And I think, like you said, the songs are amazing, and him as a character. Very well written character, so I really like him. But yeah, what's your number two?
Number two for me is Eliza, and this might have to do more
Nice.
with I really like her songs more than her actual character. But once again, comparing Hamilton with Harry Potter, she's just the Hufflepuff in this story, and there's not many in this story because it's a war. But yeah, she's just a great wife to Hamilton. She's very supportive, and the whole song with Byrne is this whole story is you have these very self-centered, egotistical men, and here she is just like, you cheated on me, but what I'm going to do to you, I'm just not going to tell the world what I feel.
Right,
I'm just gonna keep
right.
it to myself. So I feel like she's just a very nice contrast to just all the ambition and
Oh, definitely,
just
yeah.
self-destructive nature of these men. And here she is.
Yeah,
Just,
you need contrasts in characters, and I think,
exactly.
yeah, she's because I think like Hamilton and Burr, while they're different, they're character motives are vastly like very
Yeah.
similar, so you need to build out characters who are different and have contrasting opinions and personalities. And I think yeah, I think she's a great character, and I think a solid place on your list. I unfortunately did not did not have her on my list, not because again, I think all the cast members are great. Literally, it's like you can't pick three. So, so yeah. But my number two would have to be King George. Again, a
Nice.
smaller character. He doesn't have like a ton of stuff, but he's just so funny. He,
He is.
does a great job. Both the actors, Chicago and New York. It's a great role. I think it's a hard role. I think it's you have to. I don't know. It's like that whole king kind of royal appearance, and I think that there's a lot that goes into that. And again, it's like it contrasts a little bit the the other characters because he's kind of on the other side of it all. And I think it's not only that, but he's just also a very very funny character, a great comedic relief to the show. So that's a solid number two on my list.
Okay, and number one for me is Hamilton. I know, super basic pick, but I mean, if the main character is weak, it turns from a masterpiece to just kind of meh. And
Oh yeah.
thank God he is not weak. Literally every word he sings, and I mean, I feel like Lin-Manuel Miranda had he knew he was going to be playing this character, so he really, really crafted this character well. And he really, really did. Like I said, every single word he says is so incredibly important. All the songs, all his main songs, My Shot. I love the one at the end. And when you talk about characters in a musical, it's like how well is the song, and if the song is good, the character is good, and vice versa. So every song that Hamilton sings is great. So of course that makes him a great character. I
Oh
wish I
yeah.
could give you like a super in-depth analytical reason why he's my favorite, but I'll just keep it simple. I'll say he is a great character.
Right. No, I agree. I think that so no surprise here. My number one is also Hamilton.
Yes.
Again, very kind of basic, but at the same time, it's not because it's again like you said, you cannot have the show a good show that is without a solid lead. And I talked a little bit about Putnam County Spelling Bee earlier in the recording, and that's a very ensemble based show. It's like there's no real leads. Everyone literally has the exact same number of lines. It's a really interesting show, but when you're not talking about exceptions like that, I think you need to have a solid lead. And of course, the swings and everyone else involved are very very important because they help the show run. But having not even necessarily talking about the actors, but just talking about the character themselves, Hamilton, they wrote him very well. His songs are superb, and I think it really was not weak in any means. And I think that's really what ties it all together. He ties the entire show together. So no surprise there because obviously he's the lead character, but it's great. Yeah. So that would be my number one.
Nice. Okay, and that pretty much is starting to wrap up our Hamilton
Yes.
podcast. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed listening to our discussion about this. If you can't tell, we are very passionate about this wonderful show. And hopefully, if you got this far, you probably are as well. So that's awesome. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at the David and Aidan Show, our Discord link, which you can chat with us and a bunch of other fellow young film based YouTubers.
Yes.
That will be in the description down below. Aidan, why don't you take it away with your socials?
Awesome. You can find me on YouTube at Aidan Films. Took a little hiatus during July, but I'm back now with hopefully weekly videos, so it's going to be exciting.
Nice.
Check me out. And I'm all over the internet. You can also find me on Instagram at _it's_Aidan. You can find me on Twitter at Aidan_films, Letterboxed, Aidan_films, TikTok, Aidan Films, Byte, Aidan Films. And am I missing anything? I don't believe so. Just look up either Aidan Films or Aidan_films, and you'll find me. I'm everywhere, so
Wow.
just look. But yeah. What about you,
you're,
David?
you're everywhere. You can find me on YouTube, basically Star Wars, Twitter at David Lawler YT, which I'm very active on, Letterboxd, which I'm also active on because all I do is watch movies. That's capital LAWL3R. As always, I apologize for that.
All right, guys, that wraps up the show. Definitely check out me and David on our socials, and thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments of this video, if you're watching on YouTube, your opinions on Hamilton. We also love to hear your thoughts, and if you're listening to the audio version on either Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc., don't forget to leave us a rating. We really appreciate it, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts and on our YouTube. And with that, guys, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.